What's going on, everybody? My name is Box, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. You may know him as Evo Studio, Evo the Tuskarr, but welcome, Evo.
Hello, hi, thanks for having me, I guess.
This is probably going to be like the sweatiest video we've ever had on my channel. We're going to be talking about the latest Mythic Plus season, and I would consider me and Evo, myself, casual. Evo's pretty knowledgeable and used to be a Mythic Raider back in the day. And we wanted to talk about Season 4 in particular. We both got back into Mythic Plus last season with Season 3, and Evo actually encouraged me to get off my ass and actually play it, and I really had a good time with it, actually. As someone who has really disliked Shadowlands as an expansion, the Mythic Plus system is a big highlight for me, and I would say it gave me more fond memories of at least the dungeons of the expansion. Like, the Shadowlands dungeon at Season 3 I thought were very good. So when Season 4 came out, it was the first time I got to engage with a Mythic Plus season from the start and actually try to go for Keystone Mastery. But I will start it off, Evo. I'm going to throw it to you. What was, like, your general thoughts on, like, Season 4, Season 3, like, comparatively? Like, which one did you prefer?
That's pretty tough. I don't know which one I prefer. I might have to say Season 4, just because they brought back WoD dungeons, and I love WoD more than I'm, like, legally supposed to. But, yeah, like, I don't know, I've enjoyed both of the seasons a ton. I skipped Seasons 1 and 2, largely because of, like, gameplay reasons with, Covenant swapping and all that jazz, just kind of pushed me away from the game a little bit. But one of the things that I've, like, always said about Shadowlands, and I did that whole video on my channel about it, is that, like, Shadowlands doesn't get credit in some places, and I think one of those places is really Mythic Plus. Because I think it's the saving grace of the expansion, because these dungeons, while the aesthetics can be whatever, the gameplay is really good, and where, like, you had BFA dungeons, which were very annoying in terms of trash mechanics, and I was doing, like, you know, the plus 20s and stuff back then. Shadowlands, it's way more fun, and way less irritating to deal with. So I've just had a much better time with the Shadowlands dungeons, and then with Season 4, it just brought back some really nice ones. Grimrail Depot and Iron Docks were amazing, and, like, everyone hates Grimrail, and I don't understand why. It's so good.
Right?
But then, like, Return to Karazhan Lower, I think, is probably the only bad one. It's annoying. It feels like a very classic dungeon where, like, the mechanics aren't really fun or interesting, but they can kill you really easily. Upper's amazing. And then, obviously, MECHAGON. I like MECHAGON. You have mixed feelings about MECHAGON, but I really like it. But yeah, that's overall, like, my thoughts. They really tuned up progression, and they did the whole thing with Valor, and I think that was a huge change. And I'm not exactly sure what season they did that, but I almost made a video talking about that and how I really want that to be a thing, like combining the WoD's Valor system with Mythic Plus. And I had that idea since they introduced Titan Forging, and I wanted it to be like a counter to Titan Forging. But in its current context, like, you can just farm dungeons uncapped in, I think, the end of Season 3 and now in Season 4. And just upgrade your gear so you can get something in a plus 2 and work towards it. It really gives this sense of purpose to actually doing dungeons, because you're always getting Valor, and you can carry pieces of gear with you. And it's just, the whole gearing loop, the gameplay, just everything about Mythic Plus these final 2 seasons has been amazing, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with it in Dragonflight, because they're carrying forward a lot of the experiments they've done. So I'm excited for that, and yeah, I guess that's the gist of it.
Yeah, you actually kind of covered a lot of, like, I have a very similar feeling to, like, the Mythic Plus season. I actually found this season to be, I would say, more challenging for me, at least, than the last season. With just going back to Season 3 a little bit, I thought the mechanic with the 3 robots from Zereth Mortis is really fun. But Season 3 pushing it, I think the reason I might have had a hard time more with Season 3 is I really pushed it the last, like, 4 weeks with you, I remember. But the Shadowlands dungeons, though, I really like the simplicity of them, but also the complexities, too. I know some people might hate on me for this, but I really liked how the Covenant system was used in the dungeons to take shortcuts and such. I thought that was really fun. But going to the dungeons this season, the mechanic we had was that Dreadlord mechanic, and I thought that was actually pretty fun. Zolgamax needs to be in a new machinima. That'll be like keys right here at some point. but Zolgamax, like, was a fun mechanic in each dungeon. The Dreadlords with the buff. I forgot to take the haste buff like every dungeon we ran, but that was the whole thing. But my favorite dungeons on the same side of what you talked about were actually the WoD dungeons from a design perspective. They're so linear, and it's basically just do the mechanics or die. Certain affixes could be annoying, sure, on Grimrail, but the actual dungeon, it didn't take away from. Like, Grimrail is still, like, a really fun dungeon. Iron Docks is a really fun dungeon. Mechanically, I really like every boss in there. The second one as a Fury Warrior felt good, because I could just press Blade Storm and do good, especially as a bad player. But, yeah, Docks was good. Then I would say I liked Tazavesh, and I liked it like a little less this season because we had already done it last season, but I still love Tazavesh. Like, I think it's one of the best dungeons Blizzard has ever done. See, I said I hate Shadowlands, and you hear me, like, talking really good about all the Shadowlands dungeons. I really do think Shadowlands has amazing dungeons, even though the story and the expansion was eh. But,
okay, it's a little worse than but yeah.
It's Zoval, that's what we'll call it.
Yes,
we'll call it
yes.
Zoval. But then I would say, like, after that, the 2 Karazhan dungeons, and I would say I like Upper Kara and MECHAGON, like the outside, the top part. And my 2 least favorite dungeons, I think, were Lower Kara and MECHAGON Workshop. I think the reason I didn't like MECHAGON Workshop was because every group I was in had a weird, wacky scenario. Like, I'm just gonna play this clip that Evo posted on Twitter of me being bad at it, so you guys will know why I don't like it. So I'll be back in like a minute.
What does it say?
I'm gonna fuck you up this fight. Evo, I have never fucked this fight up. I just want you to know that. Oh, I don't think I'm beating Evo this pull. Oh my.
Box, why could...
Thank you, Joe Biden. I'm done. I'm going home. It was a shitty thing. Buck. Oh my god!
He fell in the pit in the lava.
Why am I dying? Oh.
Right now. No, get out. Aren't you gonna get out of that?
What?
Yeah, aren't you supposed to get out of that? Yeah, you have to get that blue stuff.
Where?
Box, careful. Box is stuck. Oh!
I'm flipping you guys both off right now, so you to know that.
Get out of there, Bugs.
You wish, Evo. Oh my god, I just fucked us. Look at my spear. 7.2. Oh hey, and I got loot.
Box, why are you so bad?
Jitters, I don't fucking know. I've played this game for years, and I can't explain anything to anyone.
Every choice I made, I would proudly make again.
But yeah, that's why I don't like MECHAGON Workshop for everybody. I will just say, like, it's a good dungeon. I'm just bad at it. But Lower Kara, I think, was the only one I would say was like bad from like a balancing and design perspective. Like, it was just not fun. It felt aimless, and it felt too, like, it didn't feel well designed for like the Mythic Plus system. So that's something I'm worried about with some of these older dungeons coming back in the future, that they might have that same feel.
Well, I don't know if you're thinking about it, but Karazhan was designed for Mythic Plus. It was Legion. So, like, it was expressly designed for that. Like, I think, inadvertently, I think you hit on, like, one of the more interesting things about Season 4, which is, like, we got sets of dungeons from, like, every single expansion, like, or the past 4 expansions, with BFA, Shadowlands, Legion, and WoD. And they all have very different design philosophies and, like, how they're approaching mechanics and whatnot. And it's just really interesting to see those, like, contrasted. And this might be an unfair statement. I might retract this. But I feel like one of the reasons that WoD dungeons are so fun, and I think, like, they're definitely my favorite. They're your favorite. I think there's probably a vocal, or a not vocal, majority of people that really liked the WoD dungeons. I'm just going to choose to believe that. I think part of the reason they're so cool and they're so fun is that they're very thematic in a way that, like, some of the other dungeons just aren't really. Like, Iron Docks and, like, Grimrail Depot especially has, like, really, really good thematics. It's really thematically strong. And, like, I want to give some love to that second boss, Nidtrog, Thunder Tower. Yeah, that guy. Because his boss fight is just get ammo and put it in the cannon and shoot the thing, but it's really cool and it's elevated by like the fact that you're on a train, like you have those side aisles that like push you back in the wind. It can wipe groups when people don't know what you're doing, but like it's really cool, and I feel like they have a lot of personality. Like WoD was the first expansion I took seriously, so I'm obviously a little biased towards it in that regard. But I really like those WoD dungeons, and I'm excited for Shadow Moon to come back.
Oh, same.
That one's
actually.
gonna be fun.
It's funny you say that, Evo, on like topic of like a little bit of like Dragonflight dungeons. Like, I'm a big fan of Mists of Pandaria, and one of the dungeons I'm worried about next season is Temple of the Jade Serpent, because I think in Mythic Plus I'm worried it's gonna feel too slow with the amount of RP in it when you have that timer going down, and it might not just feel good as opposed to like some of these other dungeons where you can actually just go.
Yeah, and we have had that in the past. I'm trying to remember what dungeon it was, but there have been points where the RP gets really annoying. But I also am curious how much they're going to tune up the later dungeons or make them more modern, I guess. Removing that. As far as I recall, it's been a long time, but I'm pretty sure Temple of Jade Serpent is going to need new mechanics to actually be interesting. Like, I don't think if they just copy it over and don't add new things, it's going to be a super engaging dungeon. I could be wrong with that, but I just don't really see it going over that way. And if we're gonna get to the point where we're like updating old dungeons, right, and actually adding new mechanics and making them more interesting, I would be really keen to see like Hellfire Ramparts, Magister's Terrace, if they like gave those visual overhauls. That might be stretching it, but like even mechanical overhauls to make them more engaging, interesting dungeons, that would be incredible. Because I'll say the hot take here, I have been playing some BC Classic. I've gotten to level 70, done all that stuff. And I've been doing, like, the dungeons, some heroics, and it's just, like, they really aren't that engaging, and it really solidified to me why I like retail as much as I do, and it's because you have that higher end of gameplay that doesn't necessarily need to be, like, ultra sweaty, but just Mythic Plus is more engaging than playing Classic, generally speaking. And it's really fun and engaging, and there's lots going on, whereas with Classic, it's very simple and basic and all that jazz. I would love to see those old dungeons sort of revitalized with the new Mythic Plus system and like get new mechanics and new stuff, kind of keep the old spirit. Because I think thematically, a lot of the old dungeons are infinitely better than a lot of the modern ones. But
I agree with that.
Mechanically, the modern ones are way more engaging and way more fun. So I would love to see those like get really touched up. And I'm curious to see how far they're going to go with that in MOP, and if we ever go further back, how far they're going to go with that.
Yeah, like I it's kind of cool. The Classic team, they're trying to decide like what do you do after Wrath, right? So they could almost do duo development here if you think about it. Like if they do more Season of Mastery servers, that's how you could make that more like interesting like BC content, like with like the bosses in there. You could literally just take those bosses, design them in a harder way where it would be tuned for like BC armor, but also where you could port it over to retail and have those new mechanics. I know that some might say that might cheapen the experience of playing it back then, but I think it'd be a good way of developing content for both games. Like, that's a great idea.
I think it would probably be something that almost exclusively would need to be on retail. Like, I'd be down for it to be on Classic. I mean, I probably wouldn't play it. I'm not a huge Classic fan. But I think the Classic community would riot if they did something like that. Just, it doesn't seem like something they're all too interested in. And it seems like a lot of the Classic player base, I don't want this to turn to, like, just talk about Classic, but, because we have our opinions about that, and that could be a whole other thing. But, like, I think a lot of people who play Classic like it for fundamentally different reasons than, like, we like retail dungeons. Like, Classic is a lot simpler and a lot more relaxing to some people, I guess. But it's just a very different game in, like, the way you approach it and the way you engage with it. And I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think the Classic community at large wants that to be modernized. But, like, in the case of retail, I think, like, getting the Botanica, the Mechanar, the Alcatraz, right, would be really cool to see those updated. And just with modern mechanics, because there's really cool things in there.
This would be just a wish, but, like, imagine that with, like, new mogs, too. Like, they recolor some of the gear. That would be really cool for doing it on, like, Mythic Plus.
If they did, like, Legion level not overhauls, but, like, making the armor again, like they did with TOS, and they did that, and then just put it as, like, I honestly think that would be a really cool Keystone Master reward if they gave it like a recolor of an old armor set and they themed the old dungeons around that season, and then you got a remade version of the set. Like, that wouldn't realistically be possible given the art assets, I'm assuming, but it would be cool. But yeah,
I'd be interested to see that.
I'm really excited, especially by Season 4, because of the fact that we're getting to see old content brought back into relevance, and we're also seeing that with the raids, because I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with it in terms of, like, evergreen content having more things be relevant, because WoW sort of is in its own era in terms of MMOs, because, like, SWTOR, Elder Scrolls Online, I don't know about Final Fantasy, but, like, a lot of MMOs have everything relevant at all times. So, like, in SWTOR, you can go in and you can do any operation from the game's history, and it is current content. And I'm curious how they're going to bring that to modern standards, because it's exciting to get to do some of this old stuff again, and just how they're going to take that and how that's going to shape the progression of the game is really interesting. But we've gotten kind of off the topic of Mythic Plus, I guess, so I'll throw it back to you and let you recenter it to whatever you desire.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's an interesting topic, because, like, I was going to mention the Fated stuff at some point, and I think that was good, because it was still, like, relevant to, like, Mythic Plus, and because this season focused, like, on almost all old dungeons. I think a highlight for me this season, too, is it did seem like, this might sound a little crazy, but it seemed a little less grindy to get Keystone Master. Like, you needed less raiding, there was less dungeons, and I definitely preferred 8 dungeons to, like, the whole Shadowlands roster. That was fun, and, like, again, like, I think we mentioned earlier, but the WoD dungeons were so good, and I think it really showed the potential of revisiting these old dungeons, because, like, it seemed like it can definitely be done, because, like, this is relevant to Legion time walking. I'm kind of disappointed that's going away, because that was really fun this season, going back and doing those dungeons. Like,
I forgot we did that, yeah.
They were fairly challenging still. They weren't, like, easy or pushover, but, like, if they tune stuff, like what they're doing, like, because we're gonna get Legion dungeons again. It's good to see them back in the rotation, and I'm glad I did them, because now I'll have a refresher for Dragonflight.
And I'll say that, like, the entire reason I came back for Season 3, like, part of it was I wanted to experience the Shadowlands dungeons, because I hadn't really gone full into Mythic Plus, this expansion.
Mm-hmm.
But the real reason was I knew they were bringing Rimrail Depot back, and I was, like, so hyped. And I wanted to be there for Season 4, and I was so excited for that, just because I have so much nostalgia and love for WoD, which I know is a weird opinion on the internet, but, like, I adore that expansion. The raids and dungeons were fantastic, but I think it also is really powerful in terms of nostalgia, because you're going to get people that, like, haven't played in a long time, and you say, like, oh, we're bringing back this old dungeon that you have a lot of nostalgia for, and it's going to be in the modern game. And I feel like that's exciting to people who maybe aren't full-on classic Andes, who just think the modern game is trash, but, like the modernizations. So I feel like that would be an interesting way to bring in new people, or old people, I guess, that have nostalgia for the old dungeons, and also keep that good variety in content. But yeah.
So, Evo, something I said before this patch came out, and this is coming from a guy who hates Shadowlands. Like, it's my least favorite expansion, like, less than WoD, I'd say, even with all the praise I'm giving the Mythic Plus stuff. I said before it came out, I think Season 4 is going to be one of the most fun gameplay patches that, like, I didn't want to miss out on. And after playing Season 4 Mythic Plus and the Fated raids on normal, I could definitely say this was a great idea by Blizzard in terms of, like, I've been a guy who's been playing WoW forever. I'm not great at it. I've been playing it since I was literally in 4th grade, and I'm 28 now, and I'm still playing WoW. But, like, this is the best thing Blizzard can do for content droughts, and to actually take time to work on their next expansion. Like, this, I'm sure this did take a good bit of dev time, but it couldn't have taken, like, a lot of people to work on something like this. It is nice to have little extra things to, like, hold you over for Dragonflight, because I haven't even felt the drought this time. And granted, I did not play Shadowlands Season 1 or 2 either, so take this with a grain of salt. But it felt good to do that. Earning the Slime Cat was fun. The Ethereal is really cool. But yeah, I think overall, like, and you could throw in anything you want to after this Evo, because I think we've kind of hit a lot of points this season. this season was very fun to revisit the past because I think they did a good job, and it was a really smart experiment by Blizzard. And I do hope we see more Season 4 stuff mixed with current content. I will say the only like critique I would have, and that actually is a good segue, the only critique I would have for this patch, like gameplay wise, and I feel like you might be able to attest to this, is it definitely felt like, I think Season 3, because it was an actual tier and it was linked to a tier, felt very polished. Where this one, like, it didn't feel like not polished, but there was something small about it that I think they like could be expanded upon a little bit. I can't quite put my finger on it, but like I think you kind of know what I'm saying, right? With that,
Was it just the lack of something new, really?
I think that was it, to be honest. Like, if they could, I don't even know exactly what the answer, what I'm looking for is either. Like, I think something that you told me that I think it was like So Breezy said was like that the Mythic Plus felt like the core content this patch over the rating.
Mm.
And like I definitely felt that. I definitely felt that. And that's something like is like a line that I think Blizzard needs to watch in future patches, because like faded raids for me was like get the slime cat and then not touch it. I think faded raids, and it is kind of on the topic of Season 4, maybe needed more rewards, like more mounts and stuff. Like you could have had this, like I think a big thing for the community is you could have had the slime cat, but just have it be different colors. Have a purple one for LFR, green for normal, red for heroic, and like something for mythic. And it sounds kind of toxic, but like I think that's a good way of adding more longevity to it and having more people want to go back. Because I want to do faded raids, but I don't really feel the point outside of that cat
I think
to do it.
One of the issues is just that with Mythic Plus, right, you can spam it and get a piece of gear. And with the Valor stuff, which I was praising to no end because it's amazing and it makes playing the game way more fun, you can just grind Mythic Plus. It can even be +2s all day. Get Valor, upgrade an item you got from a +2 to a +15 item level. And you can do that in a week because they didn't cap Valor. And like, I think that's good, right? Like, I'm not saying change that. If anyone from Blizzard is listening, please make that a thing in Dragonflight. I don't know if that's going to be, but like, please. But the issue is that when you compare that to raiding, which has a much higher bar to entry, you can't just plug into it as easily, and like you have to be more coordinated, all that jazz. And then you kill a boss, and you have a low chance of getting gear, and then you're locked out, right? You can't do it again. So it's a lot slower paced, and there is no upgrade path in terms of like you're not going to be able to turn normal gear into heroic gear into mythic gear. There might have been a thing for that this patch. I'm not sure because I didn't take raiding very seriously this patch, but like. It's impossible to compete with Mythic Plus, and I think it's a really weird design position they have themselves in, is that dungeons and raids are very much competing, and they want dungeons to be on par with raids, seemingly.
But then you want to have reason for people to go do the raid content, so it's like that's a tough thing for them.
And they're just designed differently. Like, what makes Mythic Plus fun is different than what makes raiding fun. Like, I wouldn't want raids to be farmable, right? Like, that sounds awful. Because you want to do it with your guild, go in, make your progress, and then log out. Like, if someone was to say, oh hey, the best way to gear this patch is to farm normal Vault of the Incarnates over and over and over and over, and then you'll get Valor from doing that, and then you can upgrade the normal pieces you got from normal into Mythic gear. That would be awful. That would be horrible. Because that would bring it in line with Mythic Plus, though. But like, how they solve that is a tough problem, and that's why they're game developers, I guess. Like, I could throw ideas, but hey. Like, it's a tough one, but I think, I don't know if this is, like, entirely on topic, but I think one of the main things that has led to me enjoying WoW more, and I think, to some extent you, is just being able to appreciate the game for what it is and what is fun.
Yep.
Because, like, the overall structure of the game has issues right now, especially with like raiding versus Mythic Plus, all that stuff.
Legendaries.
Oh fuck, legendaries.
Luckily they're fixing that in Dragonflight, I already heard, so that's good.
Yeah, but like the thing is that Mythic Plus, when taken in isolation, is really fun. It has been a blast the past 2 seasons, and it's probably some of the most fun I've had in the game in like a good long time. And people need to, I think, get better at divorcing like issues they have with power progression systems from being able to appreciate and enjoy the game, which is a tough ask, right? Because it's like, dude, stop feeling bad about covenants and just have fun. But like on some level, I think there is truth to that because it is very possible to have fun in WoW. And like WoW is still an extraordinarily fun game, just in its base gameplay, dungeon design, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to echo a little bit of what you said too. Like I would echo that, like, if you engage with the systems, it's really fun. Like I'll be honest, one of the reasons I never tried Mythic Plus when Shadowlands launched or the other stuff is because like I played this game very casually and I never thought I'd be good enough to do it. But now I feel like now that I've actually done it, it is something that I'm open to doing, and that barrier might be some anxiety for some players. Like they don't, and like this is a random thing too, guys. Like I rarely talk in party chat, but if somebody ever gets like toxic with you, just ignore it. Like you'll never have to play with those players again. I had people tell me I was bad all the time, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But I never argued in chat with those people. I just ignored them and kept playing. Like, that's all you can do. And the thing is, like, as Evo said, like, I was someone who never thought of doing it, and I've gotten Keystone Master both seasons. So, like, if you didn't play this season, there is still time to get Keystone Master. It only takes probably, like, 5 weeks of playing consistently, and then you can try the Dragonflight one, and I think you'd have a good time if you've never done Mythic Plus before. That's my advice for anyone interested. This season, I would give like an A or A+ to. That's how good I thought it was. It was fun. Like, it was really, really fun time. And I'm glad that I got to experience it. I think season 3, a little bit better for me, because like I think for some reason it felt more polished because it was a part of the tier. That's a whole nother situation though, but both seasons were very, very fun. And they changed my opinion on Shadowlands, which I thought was a horrible expansion all around, to, oh, the gameplay was pretty fun in Shadowlands, but the story was ass. Like, that's kind of like how I think of that expansion now, and I'll even go on record saying that here. I think Dragonflight is showing a lot of promise, and it takes a lot of the stuff that, like, for those who've watched me for a long time, that me and Skull have said, like, we really liked about, like, BFA. It's kind of taking that stuff and the stuff that we like Pandaria, all those expansions. So I'm really excited to see what they do. I'm excited for the Evoker class, how that's going to play. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't very excited for the next Mythic Plus season. But I'll end it on that, too. With Evo, I'll let you do your closing.
I guess I'll just add on briefly to what you said there about, like, the challenge of it. Like, I know a lot of people are scared to get into Mythic Plus because it's rather intimidating. There's lots of mechanics for lots of bosses. But realistically, WoW is not a terribly hard game. It's more of an information game. Like, once you know what to do, it's a lot easier to do. Like, nothing is super, super complicated. It's just practice and knowing what it is you're meant to be doing. And having that knowledge base it makes you a lot more confident to go into dungeons, like knowing how your class plays and why, or knowing what mechanics to expect. And for people that are struggling to get into it because of, like, toxicity or whatever, right, in pugs, one of the biggest pieces of advice, and I'm sure you'll attest to this, Box, is do it with a friend. Just a singular friend. Doesn't have to be a full group. Just get a buddy that you want to do Mythic Plus with and suffer the toxic people together. And when you're in that environment and you know that you're putting forth your best foot and you're, like, trying to improve and do well, you can just laugh at the people being toxic. Because, like, they're getting upset over a video game. Like, at the end of the day, who's winning in that situation? But just playing with another person helps make Mythic Plus way more fun and way less toxic.
Some of the best fun I had playing Mythic Plus in Season 3 was with Evo, Law, my friend Kai, and his friends. Like, it was really, really fun time. And, like, that's some of the best times you could have, honestly. Is, like, if you have just a friend, do Mythic Plus with them. It's, like, one of the most fun, engaging content you could do in WoW.
Indeed.
But anyway, guys, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening to us. Probably, I'm assuming, in the background of playing WoW yourself or any other game. Make sure you follow Evo on YouTube, Twitter. My Twitter is Boximus Mike. If you ever want to see me just meme, I don't really know what I even post on there. But if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time.